This is the Sixth Man Show, an Orlando Magic podcast, with your hosts, Luke Sylvia and Jonathan Osborne, covering all things Magic basketball. By fans, for fans. Go Magic! What's going on, Orlando Magic fans? You guys are back with the Sixth Man Show. Today is January 22nd, 2024. Jonathan Osborne here, as always, joined by my co-host, the undershirtless Luke Sylvia. Luke, what is going on, my man?
The Orlando Magic secured a win against the Heat tonight, so I couldn't be better. And
we are back.
We are back. Franz Wagner, that is why we are wearing the Stars Franz Wagner jersey tonight in honor of his return. And it doesn't get better. It doesn't get better than to beat the Miami Heat, especially when both teams essentially fully healthy. We've had our issues the past couple games with Miami. Wasn't an issue tonight. Blow them out. Lowest total of the year for them at whatever that was, 87 points, something like that. Magic are scary when healthy.
We'll talk about the last two games, obviously, the Philadelphia game and then the Heat game from Sunday night. But after we got whooped by Philly on Friday, all day Saturday, all I could think about is we just having to watch Trae Young and Joel Embiid, the kings of all foul merchants across the NBA, having to watch those guys Wednesday and then Friday, and then going to Saturday with the bitter taste of that loss. And then I'm and tomorrow we play the freaking Heat at home. I really genuinely was not prepared for what it would have felt like to lose to the Heat tonight. And thankfully we didn't have to deal with that. They got the win. They took care of that. Luke, you and I sat here essentially a week ago at this very moment, and we were looking at the schedule from this week. New York on Monday, Atlanta on Wednesday, Philly on Friday, Miami on Sunday, and we said, whatever happens, I don't care how you do it, you have to find a way to win 2 games this week. You have to go 2-2. And we were a DeJounte Murray buzzer beater away from going to overtime and potentially going 3-1 on the week. So feeling pretty good. You and I talk about this. We talked about we're comparing this to my golf game from yesterday. I went out and played, and you said, how did you do? I said, I did okay. I did much better on the back 9 than I did the front 9. Therefore, I leave the golf course in a good mood. And you liken that to the podcast, where I always feel better recording a podcast after a win. Mm-hmm. So it's the exact same way. Daddy's got new irons on the way, but new to me. Very Perfect. Excited about that. Won't help the game at all, but I'm pumped for that. So I'm in an overall good mood, especially after beating the Heat.
How can you not be?
All right, folks, those of you that are part of our Patreon and are either the Hall of Fame or Elite tier, don't forget this Thursday, January 25th, starting at 8 p.m. Eastern, is going to be our next Patreon exclusive Zoom. So be sure that you guys come in and hang out for that. We're hoping for a good turnout. Just hang out with Magic fans, and sometimes we talk Magic basketball, and sometimes we talk Magic basketball and fill in the blank, whatever you want to talk about. One time we talked about somebody literally getting vaporized, and I've never been able to forget that. So, be sure that if you're in our Hall of Fame or Elite tiers in our Patreon, be sure that you're coming to hang out with us this Thursday. And if you are in our Patreon, you're not Hall of Fame or Elite, you can go ahead and upgrade that right now at patreon.com/The Sixth Man Show. And if you're not part of our Patreon, again, you can find us at patreon.com/The Sixth Man Show. And we'll talk a little bit more about Patreon in just a bit. NBA All-Star voting, folks, has ended. Third returns, very, very good for Paolo Banchero. So right now he's 8th in the Eastern Conference in front court voting. 541,669 nice votes in total for Paolo through the third returns. Finishing above a New York Knick, who's been playing really at an all-NBA level so far this season. Julius Randle, obviously Mikal Bridges, Kyle Kuzma is no longer on that list. So overall, did very, very well. If you look around the league at other guys that Paolo finished ahead of, Luke, Chet Holmgren, Domantas Sabonis, De'Aaron Fox, Ja Morant, which I get, and the suspension plays into that. But Devin Booker, Austin Reeves, LaMelo Ball, Drew Holiday, Derek White, DeMar DeRozan, not too bad for our second-year stud there, Paolo.
You almost were waiting, like you look at Kuzma dropping out of the voting, and it's like, but it wasn't Paolo, but it felt like that was a possibility in my mind of just that he just kind of falls out of that top 10 there, and then we're just kind of left thinking like he probably won't make it. But with him being, what is he, 8th now? And that counts for, what is it, 50%? Is that right? 50%. It's a big amount. Then what? It's is it players 25, media 25, or something like that?
For the starters, yes, but I'm almost positive that like Paolo is not going to be voted as a starter. Like that would genuinely be crazy.
Yeah.
What we're going to be looking for is the reserves, which is the coaches around the league vote on the reserves.
Okay, so that's just coaches. That's good. I'm glad we're all learning here tonight.
Right.
And so the fan vote's great in terms of just like honestly recognition. Doesn't hurt that you just keep seeing
the Andrew Wiggins rule is why they've implemented all of this kind of stuff. So the Andrew Wiggins thing doesn't ever happen again.
Yeah, that was crazy. So yeah, and then what we find out here in a couple Thursdays if Paolo's going to be making it as a reserve. That's, man, it's good. We don't play that night, so that's all we're going to be doing: checking our phones, checking our screens, see if he's an all-star.
That is correct. So the starters are going to be announced this Thursday on Inside the NBA on TNT, and then the following Thursday, which is February 1st. Usually around like 7 o'clock, that broadcast will start. So we are going to be hanging out on playback that night. It's tricky because you want to wait for the broadcast, but going back through Shams's Twitter feed, it seems like he is usually at least a few minutes before the like official broadcast announcement. So we're going to be on playback a little bit ahead of the broadcast. Hopefully, Shams doesn't spoil it too early, and we can all react to what. Like, I think it's a foregone conclusion that Paolo Banchero is going to be, made an all-star reserve by the coaches around the league. So for all of us to be able to react to Paolo and potentially even Franz, Franz has, a couple weeks here, at least a week or so to make his case. Franz never gets hurt. I think there's a small chance that the Magic have 2 all-stars, but the fact that right now they're 8th in the Eastern Conference, like, had we stayed healthy and stuck around that 4, 5, 6, somewhere around there, I think there would have been a legitimate chance for us to have 2 all-stars. But the fact that we've fallen a little bit in the standings and haven't been playing that well the last couple of weeks, I think recency bias is going to take effect here. And I don't think Franz is going to get voted in, but he could. But we'll definitely at least be able to react, hopefully as a group, to Paolo Banchero making his first NBA All-Star game. First of many. So very much looking forward to that. All right. Now to the state of the Magic. This week, the Magic went 2-2, which we talked about was an absolute necessity. Boys got it done. Shout out to them. Good for us. 2-2 with a win over the Knicks on Monday, a loss to the Hawks on Wednesday, a loss to Philly on Friday at home, and a win over the Heat on Sunday. They currently sit 8th in the Eastern Conference with a record of 23-20. They're now 10 games back of Boston, 6.5 games back of second place Milwaukee, 6 games back of third place Philadelphia, 3.5 games back of Cleveland, who we play tonight, as you all are listening to this if you're listening on Monday, 3 games back of the Knicks, a game and a half back of Indiana, a game back of the Miami Heat after tonight's win over them. We are 2.5 games up on Chicago, 4.5 games up on Atlanta, 5.5 games up on Brooklyn, and 7 games up on the Toronto Raptors, who, their win-loss record is probably just going to continue to deteriorate now that they've made the moves that they have. On the season, the Magic are 24th in the NBA in offensive rating. They are 5th on the year in the NBA in defensive rating, and they now sit at 14th in net rating with a net rating of 1.1. Taking a look at the injury report, Luke, almost a clean slate. Franz Wagner returned to the lineup Sunday. after missing the past 8 games with an ankle sprain. Gary Harris has now missed the past 9 games with a calf strain, which Gary Harris missed a couple of games to a calf strain, came back, played like a game and a half, re-aggravated the calf strain, and now he's been out 9 games. So who knows how much longer Gary is going to be out with this? Don't really know, but it still could be a while. Haven't really heard much in the way of updates as it regards to Gary Harris, Luke. And then a little bit of Magic news, I guess. Our boy Franz Wagner making the appearance on JJ Redick's podcast, Old Man in the Three. It was fun. I feel like the whole point of those, it's to introduce these guys more into like the not casual fans, but like not, you don't learn a lot about the guy if you're already like a diehard of that team. Like I didn't learn a ton about Franz Wagner per se in this, but it's cool that he's getting like that level of exposure to people around the league that watch and listen to JJ's podcast that don't necessarily watch and follow the Magic.
The coolest thing that I took away was Franz's mindset and how humble he is. There's a point where JJ starts asking him, coming into your rookie year, not last season, coming into your rookie year, did you have any idea that you would become one of the guys? And Franz tries to answer, and JJ like keeps expounding upon his question and kind of cuts off what I felt like was going to be a cool moment. But Franz, you could see like the camera that cuts to him, and as soon as JJ says like, "Did you have any idea?" He just smiled and said, "No," like he just no idea. And in those moments, it was just refreshing because NBA players, as much as we want to think that they're not, a lot of NBA players have huge egos. They've been the best their entire life, right? I know myself in that position, I'd probably be just as bad.
Yeah, you'd have massive head.
Yeah. So it was just refreshing to hear Franz just be like, no, I didn't. Because in that moment, a lot of guys probably been like, yeah, I knew. Or I always knew.
Anthony Edwards is like, oh, yeah.
Right. Yeah. A lot of people. Paolo probably, right? Like he was number 1 pick, obviously. A little more obvious for Paolo. But, right? These guys expect it. Franz Wagner was like, he said a lot of cool things that were really humble sounding and whatever, but that was my favorite moment. Just like quick moment that might have been missed by some people. Loved him talking about the difference between international ball and playing in the U.S. Talked about why like Germany had success in FIBA, essentially alluding to the fact that the USA team, like players are changing all the time, and in Germany they've been playing together for a while. They get it. And he also talked about, like, expounded on playing the pick and roll. And I think he said he didn't play in a pick and roll until he was like, 14 or 15, which he had played a lot of basketball even before that, right? So just kind of speaks to just the crazy differences, and just that your like international ball is just very, and European ball is very team oriented. I'm not going to try to drop 30, 40 points. We're just going to try to get the win. And Franz Wagner very much is that way. And to be honest, because of Franz Wagner, because of Mo Wagner, it makes you want more guys that aren't from the USA on your team, because they are just unselfish. They want to just win. And at the end of the day, you can know that your star or whoever's on your team contributing is super, super humble because they were raised like playing the sport that way. So it was just a breath of fresh air for me. Already knew Franz was that way, but to see him kind of affirm that and reaffirm it on a stage like JJ Redick's podcast was awesome.
To me, one of the biggest takeaways, the part where they were talking about just like the difference between like the youth systems in the States versus Germany and Europe, and talking about how like it's sexy, like it's glorified to be a bucket getter, you know, in the States. Like everybody wants to be Anthony Edwards, or growing up, you know, Tracy McGrady or Kobe Bryant or whoever. And Franz talked about, getting up in the middle of the night and, watching Dwayne Wade and things like that. But obviously, he didn't really model his game after Dwayne Wade. And it's just hearing him talk about developing through the Alba Berlin system and just the emphasis on moving without the ball and, the fundamentals and how much they worked on footwork and, other parts of his development. It almost seems like guys coming over from Europe, like if you've properly had a chance to evaluate their talent, like a guy like Franz Wagner who played at Alba Berlin, but then came over and played in like the U.S. College system, and you could see where he stacked up against other real legitimate NBA prospects. It almost feels like those guys have like a lower floor. Like maybe the ceiling isn't going to be as high, but if you look at a guy like Jalen Green, who's now in like his third year, and I mean, I was as high on Jalen Green as anybody because the kid is just like a bucket getter, but there's a lot of flaws in his game that are making themselves to be a lot more apparent, and he doesn't have really a real impact on winning basketball. So that was the biggest takeaway for me is like we've talked about how the talent level between the United States and a lot of these European countries, especially like the talent gap is shrinking more than it ever has, and it's closer than it ever has been. And you look around the league right now, and the best players are European, or international. I guess you've got Joel, you've got Jokic, you've got Giannis, you've got Luka, you got Franz, baby. I mean, I think that trend is just going to continue, and I really hope at some point. I don't think it's going to happen, but I really think at some point, like NBA basketball from top to bottom, like even like the AAU, culture, like takes a look at, hey, maybe we need to rethink the way that we're doing this because again, the gap has just been closing and closing for years. But I thought it was a dope interview. Obviously, hearing Franz talk about the Magic, nothing really stuck out to me or like surprised me about that at all. But to hear JJ like rant and rave about Jalen Suggs like towards the end of their conversation was really cool.
And I think back, and then we'll move on here to actually our jam of the week. But I think back to draft night. Maybe it was draft night, or maybe it was when we were doing kind of our content or we're looking at prospects. The buzz around Franz Wagner, or the word on him was he doesn't do anything elite, but he does everything well. He's going to make those around him better. And it all makes sense because of how he grew up and how he played basketball. He even talked about his time at Michigan. Like his role was not at all like go get a bucket. That wasn't his role at all because it wasn't asked. So I think it's just really awesome that if you do all the little things right, he's Jamal Mosley's just like key example of what he wants, right? Like do the little things right. Be a good decision maker. Make the right play. And just do what you're told. And the Magic have told Franz Wagner, hey, you're one of our top options, the top two. We need you to go get a bucket sometimes. Get this team going. And Franz Wagner just simply is doing what he wants. Like what not what he wants, what the team wants, right? So really cool once again to see him there. Now, Jonathan, I want to take you back just a couple hours ago. Jonathan Isaac for the jam of the week. In this one, the Magic and the Heat are tied. I think it was 22 apiece. Yes, 22 apiece. Anthony Black gets the ball, drives to the hoop, gets his feet in the paint, kick out to Jonathan Isaac on the corner. J.I. gives Kyle Lowry a nice pump flyby. J.I. goes in. Wendell Carter Jr. does a great job sealing Haywood Highsmith. Y'all can make your own judgment call about how good that sealing was. Might have gotten away with a hook. Doesn't matter. Jonathan Isaac pulls it back behind his head and jams it home. From this point forward, Jonathan, the Magic would not relinquish the lead. You go up 24-22, and I think that makes that all worthwhile for it to be the Jam Hot Chicken Jam of the Week. It happens. J.I. slams it home, go up 24-22. You are never trailing to the Heat the rest of the game.
Our friends at Jam Hot were at this game and had like a first person perspective to that dunk. So shout out to Jam.
Incredible. Now, like we said, that was your Jam Hot Chicken Jam of the Week. Now I just want to talk to you about Jam Hot Chicken, located at 400 West New England Avenue, Suite 13 in Hannibal Square there in Winter Park. They have the best chicken. You've heard us talk about it. If you're a first-time listener, welcome in. They've got the best chicken sandwich. We're not overhyping it. It is that good.
Simple.
If you like hot, get the mild, the first tier of hotness, essentially. It's still an enjoyable sandwich, and you get the kick. It's the best of both worlds. Now, go do that. Check them out. Let them know we sent you. Get you some fries, and you can ask them to put some of their comeback sauce on it, which is like their signature sauce. Super awesome. That's request only, so do that. I saw them post about that today, actually. Go do that. Go check out Jam Hot Chicken. You can find them online, jamhotchickenfl.com. You can also go to just find them on social media, and I believe it's at Jam Hot Chicken on all social media. So go check them out. Let them know we sent you. Get yourself a Sando, the box, the fries, or the comeback sauce, whatever you want. It's all incredible.
Nice little cheer wine there as well, which
They
you don't
do
always
have
find
bottled cheer
everywhere.
wine. You can't find that everywhere, but that cheer wine always hits the spot.
Love it. All right. I don't want to go back to Friday to talk about this game, but we talk about all the games, and it was on the slate, unfortunately. So let's go back to this game against Philadelphia. So cut right to it. Magic lost this one 124 to 109. And Joel Embiid, just quite frankly, unstoppable. The Magic didn't really have a say-so in the matter. If he fell on one of our guys, it was a foul. If he threw one of our guys to the ground, it was a foul on our guy that fell. The Magic also just didn't really have an answer for him defensively. And he just had his way, 36.7 rebounds. And then Tyrese Maxey, who's been playing really well against the Magic all year, 32 points. For the Magic, it just comes down to really the fact they gave up too many second chance opportunities for Philadelphia. Philly had 16 offensive rebounds, and the Magic committed 16 turnovers to Philadelphia's 7. You go back and you look at the summary of this game, Luke. It feels like it should be much closer. Philadelphia outscored the Magic 46 to 42 in the paint, and the Magic outscored Philly 69 to 26 in terms of bench points. Looking at that, you're like, okay, this must have been a pretty close game, and it was not all that close. Magic ended up throwing in the towel in the last 4 or 5 minutes of this game. We saw some Trevelyan Queen, saw some Kevon Harris for the first time this year, and we saw Jed Howard for the first time in quite a long time. Offensively, Magic just didn't totally really have it going, except one guy in particular, Wendell Carter Jr., finished the night with 25 points, 11 rebounds in just 26 minutes. So the return of the Wen Daddy, probably his best game of the season. Didn't need to knock down a bunch of threes, but again, was still filling up the stat sheet. And yeah, it just feels like Philadelphia has our number the last couple of years. Like when I go back to last November, we had that like weekend series against Philly with like no Joel, no James Harden, no Tyrese Maxey. They still smacked us around. Played them a couple of weeks ago, no Joel Embiid, just Tyrese Maxey, and they smacked us around. Joel Embiid comes back, they have Joel, they have Tyrese Maxey, and they smack us around again. So really unfortunate. Anytime that we're seeing Philadelphia on the old schedule this season, I don't really feel great about it, Luke. And this was like the pits of despair. I feel like this was one of the lowest points of the season for me because like Markel's back, Wendell's back, still no Franz, right? No Franz. Didn't really have a good idea for when he was going to be back. And it was another game of the starting lineup of Paolo, Jalen, Chuma, Caleb, and Goga. And it was so obviously not working in that first half. Magic were down. Let me see, what was the score total at the end of the first half here? Magic were down 68 to 60. Almost gave up 70 points in that first half. Caleb was a -5, plus minus. Paolo a -13. Goga a -14. Chuma a -12. Jalen a -12. Almost everybody on the bench unit, besides Cole, had a positive plus minus. And I was just telling myself at the half, like, we have had more than enough sample size that this unit with these 5 guys does not work. As long as we trot any other lineup out at the beginning of the second half, I'll be okay with it. And sure enough, we saw that same freaking starting 5 lineup to start the second half. And I was like, we're going nowhere. Until Franz comes back, this team is absolutely going nowhere. And I mean, I guess I was technically right. That was the last game that we didn't have Franz. Then he comes back and we're back. We went somewhere. In fact, we went to being back. So this Philadelphia game was just a whole bunch of not fun at all. And it not only ruined my Friday night, but also ruined a lot of my mental state on Saturday.
The only thing it did for me was make me more confused about what I want to happen at the trade deadline with Wendell Carter Jr. having the game that he had. He goes 1 of 2 from the 3-point line. He gets to the free throw line, shoots 7 free throws, 6 of 7 from the line, 9 of 13 from the field. Like you said, 25 and 11. He was the only positive plus minus, and I don't think that's a coincidence. He was the reason that he had a +2. Sometimes guys just benefit from being the supporting cast and with stars on the floor, as we know, to have a good plus minus. Wendell Carter Jr. made me rethink some things, right? Because it gets to that point, you're like, man, Wendell Carter Jr., I just was talking about him getting dealt at the deadline, but I don't know. He's clearly, from this game and what he offers offensively, he's better than Goga Batadze. But I said something to the group chat about it. I just said, when daddy's back or something like that. And your response was something to the effect of, but he's got to stay healthy. I was like, you're so right. You're so right.
Like, it's not about Wendell's ability.
Yeah.
It's not about that. Now, does he is he the best fit next to Paolo and Franz? I don't know. I would love it if Wendell was 3 inches taller and had 3-4 more inches on his vertical. Like, that would be, right. Then we wouldn't have any problems at all. But overwhelmingly with Wendell, it's like, okay, well, when is the next plantar fasciitis or knee tendonitis or whatever coming with Wendell? Like, to me, that's always going to be the thing. Like, how much can you count on a guy who you don't know that you're going to get more than 60 games a year out of?
Yeah, it is tough. It's tough. And the reason that our outlook is similar for deadline is like, our thoughts are we won't be surprised if Markelle Fultz or Wendell Carter Jr. get dealt. And you've got pretty good options behind them, right? I wouldn't mind Anthony Black getting run. I wouldn't mind Goga getting run for the rest of the season, right? Nobody's saying that this is a permanent thing. With Anthony Black, hopefully it is. Goga Batadze, I don't think that's a permanent thing. It's kind of a filler if you do deal Dell. But the common denominator here is just that Fultz and Wendell make sense because they're always injured. They're not available. And like you said, it's not so much about ability, especially with Wendell. And Markelle Fultz, we'll talk about him in the Heat game. He was a great difference maker in the Heat game. But when are they going to get hurt again? And it stinks. It does stink that that's the case with both of them, because I'm big fans of both of them as people. And so it stinks, but we'll see. Nevertheless, Wendell Carter Jr. puts his stamp on this game against the Sixers and then gets to see himself in the starting lineup against the Miami Heat, retaining his rightful spot.
I think an issue with the Magic this year, and I hate, like, so there are a couple of games this year that are absolutely on the officials, right? Like, going back to like the Sacramento game, that game was absolutely on the officials. There was a game last week, I forget which one it was, but I know I was all hot and bothered about it, that I legitimately, like, the officials had a way too big of a hand in that game. The 76ers game, as gross as the officiating was when it comes to Joel Embiid, this game was not on officiating. But what bothers me is, because this did play a factor in this game, is that the officials often don't let the Magic match the physicality of the team that they're playing. Like, Joel Embiid plays with a ton of physicality offensively. If you try to match his physicality and you're getting the whistle, you have no shot of guarding a guy like that. It just is what it is. If he's got the physical advantage and then he's going to get the whistle if you breathe on him, you have no shot of guarding a guy like that. Even straight up, it's going to be difficult enough. And it reflects in a game like this where you are out rebounded on the offensive glass, 16-11, and you're out rebounded 42-36. To beat Philly, you're absolutely going to have to crash the glass and win the battle, because we just don't have the offensive, superstars that Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey are, right? Like, Paolo is fantastic. He's in his second year. He's coming into his own. Is he capable of having a game like Joel had or like Tyrese Maxey had? Absolutely. But those guys are doing it night in and night out right now. Like, Tyrese has been incredible. Joel, obviously, playing at a MVP level again. But if the officials don't let the Magic match that level of physicality, I thought that's what also contributed to, obviously, the 29 free throws that Philadelphia had. But then you look at the Magic, and the Magic had 27. So at least that whistle was sort of going both ways. But just our inability to do anything to Joel and Tyrese, and then Philadelphia's offensive rebounding, just a real problem. And to a lot of people's point, like, Joel Embiid is a playoff dropper because he doesn't get these same calls as he does in the regular season. So, I don't know. It was annoying. Hopefully this is the last game that we can go, we're not really totally healthy, so it's not that big of a deal. Because it is tough to totally evaluate and analyze these games if, again, Caleb Houston is getting 15 minutes, if Chuma Okeke is getting 20 minutes, and then Trevelyan, Kevon, Jed Howard all getting 3 minutes. Like that, this thing's, when we're healthy, that just won't be happening. Now, we talked about this a little earlier. Let's mention Patreon. So Patreon is a platform where our listeners help support us do everything that we do. They literally keep the lights on, allow us to do giveaways, upgrade equipment, have these Patreon Zoom calls, all that kind of stuff. So if you're a listener, to the show for any amount of time and you like what we do and you want to get involved and you want to actually legitimately be the reason that we're able to do this, I would encourage you to go to our Patreon at patreon.com/the6man show and just take a look at the different tiers that we have and the different benefits that are available with each tier. Pick which one might work best for you. If it's a little, if it's a lot, we appreciate everybody the same. We give brand new patrons a brand new shout out each time that we have them. And then we give a shout out to our Hall of Fame and Elite tier patrons on each and every episode. So I'm going to go ahead and start with our guys, Kyle and Peach over at Court Cousins, best friend of the program, Drew Gooden, Armin, Carson Tulo, Jonathan Borges, Normal, Magic Player History, Gabe Gaines, Wiffle, Michael Martin, Jamel Miller, Michael Salapong, Donkey Punch Dave, Paolo and Franz's Warmth, Pierre A, Dylan Holden, Mr. Mikey, Eduardo Sanchez, Danimal, Dutto 15, Bobby Skinner, Goody 93, Teddy Sylvia, Eric Lopez, Fuchsia, Bill Fulton, Edmund Lagone, Jose Esquilin, Caleb Pete, Cannibalism, Time Mr. TV, ESPN Really Sucks, Gear 95, Shred, Junior Bruce, Half Freakin, Shahin 177, Bobby the Don, Himlo, Ben Himro, RM Prof 221, Magic Kid 714, Mysterious Mosley, that's a new one, Mysterious Mosley, Soft Taco, Victor Cologne, Irish Magic Mike, Austin Lampy, Random Hustle, Only Franz, Maria, Keith Wallace, Fritz, Currency Kev, Bruv Sal, Casey Green, Santi Leon, Kane Eckler, The Distract, Ahmad Timsa, Chansu, Tom Gadsden, Dead Air, Richard Tuttle, Jeremiah Quintero, Barstool Magic, Debo, 1980. A big thank you to all of our patrons. You can find us at patreon.com/the6man-show. Sunday night, the dirty, stinking, freaking Heat came to Orlando. Luke talked a little bit about the despair that I was feeling Saturday ahead of this game. And for parts of Sunday, I think I tweeted into the group chat yesterday, can't wait to play the Heat tomorrow. And Kevin's like, we're going to win that game. We have to win that game somehow. I wasn't feeling overly optimistic going into this game until we got word today that Franz Wagner was going to be the game time decision. We heard yesterday that he was going to be questionable, but we know what questionable means with this team. You can't put any sort of thought into that. You just have to wait and see what happens. When we heard he was a game time decision today, I was like, okay, we're just saying unless something crazy happens during pregame warmups, Franz is going to play, was back in the lineup, and the return of the lineup that we haven't seen, I think, since what was that, November 2nd, I think it was when we played the Utah Jazz, of Markelle Fultz, Jalen Suggs, Franz Wagner, Paolo Banchero, Wendell Carter Jr. Luke, what were your thoughts seeing that lineup, that it was going to be implemented again to start this game against Miami?
I was pretty confused by it. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I guess that like the re-emergence or whatever you want to call it of Markelle Fultz and Wendell Carter Jr., those just like perfectly align with Franz's return, I guess. I don't know. Because what they both played like 20 plus minutes, Kellen and Dell last game, but they didn't start. And so coming into this one, I was thinking Franz is gonna, if Franz is healthy, he's gonna start. And then I was thinking he probably takes the spot of Caleb. And then Chuma starts as well, and they just keep rolling out the no point guard look to start the game, which has been a head scratcher because you could have started Anthony Black, but you just chose not to. You wanted to do the Chuma and Caleb thing. So I was just glad that was over, that entire thing. It just felt like you've seen I know you've seen the meme that Magic fans love to put out of just like the stormtroopers as the heads of the Magic players, right? It's what it began to feel like, with no disrespect, but
You get that reference because I know you're not a Star Wars guy.
Yeah, they can't shoot. Yeah,
okay,
I get the reference. Yeah. But I appreciate keeping me in check there. Yes, but no offense to Caleb and Chuma, especially Caleb, because I think Caleb, if he can become a consistent 3-point shooter, could be a key factor to this team in the next few years. But seeing them get put out on the floor as a start in the starting group was just like just discouraging. You turn on the TV and that's the lineup, the graphic on the screen, the starters, and you're like, I don't even want to watch this game. It was fun when Chuma and Caleb were both hot, don't get me wrong. But we knew that was probably, especially for Chuma, probably just something that was going to run its course and that was going to be it. So somehow Franz coming back makes Mose decide we're also going to put Cal in the starting lineup and Dell in the starting lineup. And we're just going to run it back. It's going to feel like opening night again, aside from Gary Harris being out still. Obviously, relieved is the word I would use when Franz gets ruled available. And then you just get to watch him just demoralize the Heat all night. It was a ton of fun. That group, healthy defensively, I tweeted out, I remember why we were number one in defensive rating for a little while. When fully healthy with that starting group, they're incredible. And I think Markelle Fultz has somehow was even probably the best I've seen him off ball defending tonight. And he still was a good off ball defender before that, but tonight he was outrageous.
Yeah, the whole starting lineup was great tonight. To be fair, I think a lot of it has to do obviously with just like the size and the versatility of Wendell, Paolo, Franz, like those guys being able to switch basically onto anybody. And then you have Markelle, who is a plus defender. You have Jalen, who is an elite defender. And I mean, we were still defending relatively well with the Anthony Black, Jalen Suggs, Paolo, Franz, Goga lineup. While Markelle and Wendell were they were still playing at a super high level. But getting to visualize the concept of this starting lineup again, because we only saw the first 4.5 games, something like that before guys started to go out. So I don't want to speak too much on like the philosophy of like where the team is at. What we're trying to do as we head up to get closer to the deadline. I think we can do that in a minute after we talk more about the game. But talking about the game, Magic got out to a relatively good start. up by 3 after the first quarter. Like you talked about, the defense was astounding. Held Miami to 25% from the floor in that first quarter. Miami shot a little bit better in that second quarter. 3 of 7 from behind the arc, 6 of 7 from the free throw line, helped them get back into the game. Magic were only up 2 at the half because of that Caleb Martin buzzer beater to end the half. And then the Magic just blitz Miami offensively in that third. Magic shot 56% from the floor, 3 of 6 from behind the arc, 10 of 10 at the free throw line, outscored Miami 33-23 going into the fourth quarter. And then going into the fourth quarter, you're up 12. And I tweeted, like, the Magic have to win the next 7 minutes, like, create some space. And then at the end of this game, you'll be able to rest the starters a little bit. And the Magic just followed up a great performance in the third with a great performance in the fourth quarter, not necessarily offensively, but defensively. You hold Miami to 35% in that fourth quarter, hold them to 18 points on your way to a 105-87 win. Just big blowout. The guys got to sit, the last few minutes of the game with Cole, Caleb, Trevelyan Queen, Chuma Okeke, Jet Howard playing the last few minutes and closing out here. Anthony Black getting some burn in there as well. And not hearing a single "Let's Go Heat" chant in Amway against the Miami Heat. I genuinely can't remember the last time that happened. And it was awesome. Big win.
You called it Amway, but I'll let it slide.
Oh, Kia. You know what? Since the change, I think that is the first time that's happened.
Oh, perfect. This game, going into the fourth quarter up 12, like you said, I started having flashbacks, PTSD of the beginning of the season when we were fully healthy but couldn't close a game out. In terms of really, that was the second half thing. That was not a fourth quarter strictly thing. That was a very much a third quarter thing. But I still had the feeling of we need to put them away because Miami, like, Spoelstra's a great coach. Jimmy Butler's been awfully quiet tonight. Surely he's going to get it going in the fourth. But it didn't matter. Just really, I mean, again, we say this after every Magic win because, shocker, this is the formula to win games. The Magic shoot under 33s, shoot 28 of them. They shoot at a okay clip, 9 of 28. But then they outscore the Heat 54-36 in the paint. They rebound well, out-rebound them 44-36. Get to the free throw line, shoot 28 of them. Because inevitably this Magic team is going to miss 6+ free throws in any given game. So you got to have a high volume from there. But they did all the things. They checked all the boxes. And just did this in the most Magic way possible. Held the Heat to 87, their lowest scoring performance of the year. Can't say enough about this team. And there wasn't a time where I looked at who was on the court and was like, I hate this lineup. Because I grew to do that with the starting lineup that we were dealing with recently. That lineup was on the court, and I was like, the bench might be better. Like, I hate this lineup. At no point tonight was I like, I hate this lineup. They were just playing incredible defense. Everybody, just the effort was to the extreme tonight. Jeff and David said before the game, right before tip-off, there seems to be an energy on the bench with the return of Franz Wagner. And that's what happens when one of your leaders comes back. And Franz says after the game, it's easy to feel like you're not part of the team as part of the team when you're injured like that. And he said, but I'm glad that they made it, in a place where I felt welcome back, which none of us are surprised by that. But just all around, incredible energy tonight.
I remember what year was Endgame now? I don't remember. I said I remember, but I don't remember the year. But I remember sitting in the theater watching Endgame, and Thor, it's
2019.
fighting 2019. There you go. Thor is fighting Thanos, and Mjolnir, his hammer just raises up off the ground, and you're like, oh my gosh, is Thanos about to grab Mjolnir? And then you see it just fly past him, and you see Captain America grab it, and then Avengers assemble. That was Franz Wagner hitting that first three, baby, in the first quarter of this game. I'm like, we are back. Like, you're sitting in the theater and you're like, oh, y'all about to get it now. Y'all about to get it now. And all the portals start opening up. Spider-Man comes swinging through like, oh, y'all gonna get it. Y'all gonna get it now. Franz hit that three. I'm like, we're back, baby. Y'all gonna get it now.
And you know what else was a sign that we were back? Paolo was able to have a relatively quiet 20 tonight.
20 and 10. I was like, oh, wow.
Yeah, and I was like, wow, he had 20 and 10. That's crazy. But Paolo was just able to do his thing. And obviously having familiarity, some continuity in the starting lineup with Dell and Kell back too. It just like picked up right where they left off, right? So just was a lot of fun tonight. And Paolo, I mean, a big reason he scores 20 is 3 threes. Hits 3 threes, a lot of open ones, to which Jeff said on the broadcast, he's not had many open threes here in the last, since Franz
any
has
open
been out, essentially. Yeah. Nothing came easy for Paolo. And we just got accustomed to, like, if the Magic win, it means Paolo scored 25 plus. And he didn't have to. Once again, that was the thing as well. Like, the sign of a up and coming good team, just genuinely very good team, is that the star doesn't have to erupt for you to win. The Magic win this game by almost 20, and nobody scored 25 plus. It was a great feeling. It's good to be back.
That lineup of Markelle, Jalen, Franz, Paolo, Wendell in 19 minutes tonight had a 130 offensive rating and an 85 defensive rating, a 44.8 overall net rating. Small sample size. Like, don't take anything from that at all. But just the numbers on its face, genuinely crazy. Like, awesome job by the starting lineup in this one. You mentioned Paolo, 20 points, 10 rebounds, 7 of 14 from the floor, 3 of 5 from behind the arc. Franz Wagner, great game in his return, 19 points, 6 of 13 from the floor, 5 of 5 at the free throw line, 2 rebounds, added 5 assists, a couple of Wagner Carta lobs for our boy Wendell, who had 17 and 9. Markelle, 12 points, 4 assists, 2 steals, 2 blocks. Really good game for him. And then, guys just kind of came in off the bench and gave a few plays here and there. Anthony Black with 6 points in almost 14 minutes. Mo Wagner with 8 points off the bench. J.I. with 6. Cole with 5. Just a team doing it by committee. That's really what it was against Miami. And, as good as the offense was at moments, the defense was just genuinely suffocating for the majority of this game. So big win for the Magic. Luke, what I want to talk about now is how good Markelle was. And this is the thing about Markelle. Like, if I'm wrong about everything that we talked about the last episode, whether or not he's healthy, I don't think he's healthy because of the shoulder. Like, we keep seeing this massive bandage, and is also accompanied by like a small little white patch. I don't know what exactly is going on there. It all seems related to the shoulder because we've seen the jumper, right? It didn't take a single jumper tonight. Like, everything was at the rim for Markelle. And early in the game, like, they're not paying any attention to Markelle. Like, even if the ball is on his side of the floor, the Heat oftentimes had 4 or 5 guys actively standing in the paint, daring the Magic to shoot. So I hope that I'm wrong. Like, nothing would make me happier for this team to just play at a 130 plus offensive rating and an 85 defensive rating at all times. Nothing would make me happier than this starting lineup to genuinely be that good, to have a almost 45 positive net rating at all times. Sign me up for that. But because of what we saw tonight, I do think it is a matter of time until teams adjust and just say, like, Markelle, we're not going to let you just like cut back door. and get some of the easy looks that he saw, or get into the middle of the floor. Somebody throws it into Markelle, and then he's able to facilitate. I do think it's going to be a matter of time for teams to adjust and to scheme. Like, hey, we're just going to pack the paint. Like, that's all we're going to do. We're not going to let Markelle get these like backdoor cuts. And then we're going to see again, like tonight, you shoot, what was it? 9 of 28 from behind the arc, which isn't fantastic, 32%. But how many times this year have we seen the Magic, especially the last couple of weeks, shoot below 30%, and just nobody can buy a basket from behind the arc like whatsoever? Like Franz 2 of 5, Paolo 1 of 5, Jalen was 1 of 6, but like I don't think that's so far out of the shooting variance for this team, and I still have long-term questions about the fit with Markelle Fultz, and then just his level of availability. And if all he's able to do now is get to the rim, like before we were like, okay, he can't shoot from behind the arc, but 12 to 15 feet, he's still pretty good in those areas. Like could get to the elbow and knock down jumpers, especially closing games was huge. And if that's just not something that he's able to do consistently anymore, it changes the player that he is, and it changes the potential that he has, in my opinion. You talked about it on the last episode, and we've talked about, even if it's not here, Markelle is a guy that's going to be able to start in this league for a long time. If he doesn't even have at least a mid-range jumper that is serviceable, I don't see that being the case. So as awesome as tonight was, and I'm trying not to be like too prisoner of the moment, where maybe we were a little bit like, the last couple of games he's been bad, so we just need him out of here. This last game he's looked awesome. Okay, everything's fine. I think we're somewhere in the middle. The Magic saying, going back to this lineup with Markelle, Jalen, Franz, Paolo, Wendell, to me it's like, hey, we've got 2+ weeks to the trade deadline. This is the lineup we thought we were going to have at the beginning of the season. Let's get as much data as we possibly can on this. And then if we have to make like a last minute decision on, hey, is this going to work? Is this not going to work? I think they have to do what they're doing now. And this could not be the case. They could just be like, no, hey, this is what we want to do. This is what we want to do for the rest of the season. But if it were me, and I'm in the room, I'm listening to them say, hey, this is what we're going to do. Like, to me, that's the thing that makes the most sense, is we thought we were going to be really successful with this lineup to start the year. Let's put it back out there. Let's see what it looks like for the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 games that we have between now and the trade deadline. And then they can make a decision. And I still think moving Markelle is the right move at the deadline, because I don't see him being the long-term answer. I don't see them re-signing him this year. So if you can get anything, because it's 16, $17 million, or whatever is left on his contract the rest of the year here, and whatever you'd have to move to make that work, I still think that you do it. Wendell makes more sense to keep because he's got multiple years left on his deal. But again, even if you can move both of those guys, I think I would still be in favor of it.
You look at the shot chart, Markelle Fultz against the Miami Heat, that's all you need to know.
I don't think that's fair, because he was awesome everywhere else as well. I don't think it's all you need to know, but I think it is really important to look at.
That's all I need to know. Okay. I don't care what else he's doing. Like, because if he listen, it's not like he had 10 assists. He had a great game, and I hate that it is to this point where he had a great game, but I do feel like after the take and the stance I took last episode, I can't just show up and not address the great game that Markelle Fultz had. He had a great game, right? 29 minutes, 12 points, 4 assists. He had a great game, relatively speaking. But you look at the shot chart, and he took all of his points came in the restricted area. He attempted one shot from outside the restricted area in the paint, and he missed. That's the entire dialogue that I'm going to be fighting the rest of the time, is like, until, like you said, he's at least taking mid-range shots.
No,
because
making mid-range shots. I
well,
don't care if he's taking them. He's
well,
got to make them.
we gotta start somewhere. You got to take them to make them. Take them. Stop on a dime and hit your mid range shot. We grew accustomed to that happening, and we'll see how it goes. I mean, now that he's in the starting lineup, I assume he's going to be that way until if he gets traded. But that's where this really comes in for me. And where it should come in for everybody. I get it. There's people that are going to stick on the Markelle Fultz should be here, train, point guard of the future, whatever. I also was a big fan of Markelle Fultz on the court. Let's get
The
that
only
clear.
thing
Like,
I'm sorry to jump in. The only thing that I ask for people that are going to like stay on like Markelle Fultz is our point guard, blah blah blah. Please be honest when you're approaching the conversation. If you're disagreeing, do some soul searching. Is it because you just really love Markelle Fultz and you are just going to disagree with everything and any logic that somebody presents to you because you love Markelle Fultz? If that's the case, just tell me that and we can avoid the conversation. And if not, give me the evidence of why Markelle Fultz should be the point guard of this team moving into the future. Because I that's the thing that I've lost the vision for, is him being here for the next 3-4 years and being part of title contending teams.
and let's be
I've lost
clear,
my Markelle Fultz dinosaur, so to speak.
well, I will reiterate just the sheer fact that you and I have been big Markelle Fultz fans. It sucks that we're to this point. But that's why I don't want people thinking like you and I are just going to do that thing that a lot of people are doing right now, where it's like, whichever side of the aisle you're on, whatever caters to your agenda, like you and I are going to just present the facts. The fact was, Markelle Fultz was very good tonight.
My heart was fluttering. It was.
He was very
like
good.
I want him to be the guy.
But for me, everybody's got their thing, right? They want a player to be good at or whatever. For me right now, I literally just want him to attempt a mid-range shot, attempt a three-pointer to let me know, like, hey, maybe I'm gonna eventually get back to what I was. We know you can facilitate relatively well for a point guard. Like, for a point guard, you can facilitate, right? That's what you need to do. But if they don't even look at you on the 3-point line, I don't like in the year 2024. I don't want a guard on the court who just won't take it. And I hate that it is likely due to TOS. So it stinks. I feel for him in that respect, but in terms of just the product on the court, I would rather see Anthony Black, who still is a positive in my opinion, regardless of his role, whether it be small or not. I'd rather see him out there because he's not detrimental to the game. It's not like in years past where like you throw a guy out there because you want him to develop and you're tanking. He's genuinely a positive in these lineups because he knows how to get it. He knows when to get out of the way when it's not his turn, but he's always going to defend his butt off. And that's what you need right now when you've already got your kind of cornerstone stars. You just need a guy that knows how to get out of the way, but will shoot when the ball is given to him and let the guys do their thing and play defense at 110%.
I think part of the issue, like when we're talking about Markelle versus Anthony Black, is like there are certain things right now that Markelle can do that AB just is not capable of doing yet offensively. Mm-hmm. Like when you look at like the high level finishing, some of the passes that Markelle is able to make. Markelle is like an enigma because he makes passes that like 5% of the guys in the NBA can make, but he's never been a guy to average more than 5 assists.
Right. 5.5.
Like
right.
5.7, I think, was his career high a couple seasons ago.
Yep.
And it's just the weirdest thing. Like the guy is capable of making every single pass, I don't know what it is. It's a weird thing. Like you look at his usage percentage and the passes that he's capable of making and like his IQ, and it just feels like the guy should be able to average 8-9 assists a game. But maybe if he just was never looking for his own offense, maybe the fact that like he is sort of always just looking to make the right play and like find his own spots. Yeah. But it's hard for me to see a guy being the future of that position for our team when his offense is like it is literally regressing. Like it's not efficiency, like it's the things that he was capable of doing a year ago. It doesn't look like he's physically capable of doing those things anymore. And again, I could be totally wrong on this, but the impact that he had tonight in the way that that starting unit was able to play offensively and just move the ball so effortlessly and just continue to find the best shot over and over again, I don't see it being sustainable long term with Markelle in the starting lineup when like Jimmy Butler was playing like 12 feet off of Markelle at all times tonight. I just don't see it being sustainable. And again, I would love to be wrong, but there's a big part of my entire mind. My heart wants, my heart's like, maybe you're wrong. My brain's like, it just doesn't make sense how it could possibly be wrong.
And he has to get back to where he was. And then at that point, it's like, I hope it doesn't happen again. And it's like, when is it going to happen? I have no idea. But I will say, I feel like because of what I have said to this point about Markelle Fultz and been a downer about him in general, I have to compliment one thing for sure. You noted his obviously finishing around the rim is great. Tonight he had the ball down. I don't remember if it was off a rebound, offensive rebound. I don't remember. But you're just talking about like what AB can't do right now that Markelle Fultz absolutely can. Markelle Fultz catches the ball. Basically, it comes to the point where like he's basically in the post. Defender on his back and just gives him one spin move and he's reverse on the other side with the lane. And I was like,
it was disgusting.
That's gross. Like it happened so quick. He barely had the ball in his hands and he's doing the spin and going reverse land and like made it look so easy. And I was like, I wish you could shoot again. To like a mid range. I just wish so badly because that type of stuff is exciting. And again, like you said, did a great job tonight. We just need it to happen every night and that he can get to the rim every night. And I don't know. You got to have Dell in there because he's a shooter if you're going to have Markelle out there. You need some spacing so that he can even get to the paint. So it's weird because it's like, is Markelle Fultz impactful enough that we just need to help surround him with guys that can shoot? Or do we just need a guard that can not hesitate, shoot the ball, and can also probably get to the paint? Like, I don't know, but you just kind of got to weigh it. And I don't know that Markelle Fultz is the guy that you would go and get guys that complement his game just to keep him on the roster.
And then the other thing I'm seeing is people are like, why would we look for trades when Markelle and Wendell are so good? Just because your team is good doesn't mean you shouldn't look for ways to improve. Like the Magic have been plenty, good this year without Markelle, with Markelle, without Wendell, with Wendell, whatever. Just because we're good with those guys doesn't mean there's not a better version of this team with some modifications. Like, you can't tell me, let's just put Markelle Fultz in a vacuum here. Current Markelle Fultz and the Markelle Fultz that everybody thought we were getting coming out of Washington. Don't tell me this team isn't better with like the fully realized version of Markelle Fultz. And that guy's not out there. I'm not saying, it's simple. Just trade for the guy that we thought Markelle Fultz was going to be, because that guy doesn't exist, at least not on like the trade market right now. Not in a realistic way for the Magic, at least. But the Magic potentially could be better with putting more shooting around Paolo and Franz, with a legitimate starting rim protector that Franz and Paolo and these guys could depend on behind them, and a guy who is a little bit more of a rim threat. Like, if Wendell's open, sure, he's going in and catching a lob, but it's not really a guy that's going to be like finishing lobs over people with a lot of consistency.
Are you? I've got something to add, and we can go back if you want. Or
last thing I want to say, my ultimate Christmas wish list: Jonathan Isaac to play 30 minutes a game and to be our starting center. To me, that's the best version of that's the best possible outcome for this team.
He is awesome. He is awesome. What did he play? 15 tonight? 14?
Yeah.
Yeah. Whatever. Maybe one day he'll play 20.
That to me, that would be incredible. But I don't see that happening.
What I was going to say before we move on to the week ahead here. Tyus Jones had a great game tonight.
Oh my gosh, are you freaking kidding me?
Hey,
dude,
listen.
I was like, oh my gosh, we're going to make it through a whole Markelle Fultz conversation without bringing up Tyus Jones, and here you go.
I can't, dude. I can't. He had 13 assists tonight. He was 3 of 4 from 3 with 15 points, 1 turnover.
I'm done talking about him because I know if I continue to talk about him, I'll be upset when it doesn't happen at the deadline. And I'm urging you to give up on it because it's not going to happen. And we can be so ecstatic if it does. And there are people punching air like you guys are idiots. They still don't see the vision with Tyus Jones. We could be wrong on that too. I'll admit that. But Luke, you're gonna set yourself up for heartbreak come February 8th.
I am guarding my heart to an extent, but knowing I've just got a couple more weeks of peddling this Tyus Jones agenda, and then I'm done, and it's over.
No, then we turn our eyes to free agency because he's
right.
gonna be a free agent.
It's done for in the moment, and I could just focus on the Magic the rest of the season. But for now, I'm not lying. I'm looking at Tyus Jones stats night to night. And I like what I'm seeing. 13 assists and 1 turnover and 3 threes made. Are you kidding me?
He had 15 a couple nights ago.
Yeah. And like
15 assists a couple nights ago.
0 turnovers or something crazy. I don't even know.
On the Wizards of all teams.
Yeah, he's playing on a
Imagine if he had Franz and Paolo to kick it to.
Unbelievable. I honestly, if he doesn't
you know
come
what though?
to the
It
Magic,
feels like cheating on my wife what we're doing right now.
Yeah, well,
Markel's still on this team, and we're lusting over Tyus Jones.
I got reasons. All right, I got reasons, and
you're justifying it. Good grief.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens there. My wish with that though, before we move on, is that if Tyus Jones doesn't come to the Magic, I hope he gets somewhere else. I hope he goes to a playoff team and just some respect. So I
trade him back to the West.
Because I've got an affinity for Tyus Jones, and I want to see him in the postseason with the freaking high assist, low turnover games, and taking and making the threes.
Yeah, producer Kevin texted us while we're recording here. Pacers lose to Phoenix 117-110. Magic now only trail Indy and Miami by 1 game.
Yeah,
and Indy has a heck of a rough stretch coming up.
Miami doesn't have it much easier besides this Grizzlies game coming up.
So let's talk about the week ahead because I mean that's a sort of a perfect segue. Talk about the Magic schedule this week. So Monday, if you're listening to this Monday, the Magic play at home versus the Cleveland Cavaliers tonight. That tip off at 7:00, and then they're off Tuesday, Wednesday. Guessing they'll travel Thursday to Memphis and they'll play them on Friday. Friday at Memphis, tip offs at 8:00. And then you come home probably Friday night after that game. You're off Saturday. And then you've got the Phoenix Suns at home. Luke, what is your prediction for the Magic this week in those 3 games?
I'm conflicted because this Franz Wagner comes back.
We're back. We're 3-0. We're back. We're going 3-0 this week.
Listen,
good vibes.
The reason I am conflicted about this Cavs game is because I don't know. Because Mosley said when asked about Franz
is playing,
Wagner,
bro.
He said, "We'll see how
Franz is playing."
If they're thinking like we rest him or he's just not ready to go for the Cavs game, he's got a 3-4 day wait till that game.
They got 8
Friday.
games to evaluate this starting lineup. Franz is playing.
I hope he does. This is with the caveat that Franz Wagner is playing. This team is healthy. These 3 games. Oof. I'm going to say you go 2-1. I'm going to say you beat the Cavs, you beat the Grizzlies. I'm going conservative here in that you drop one to the Suns on Sunday for the early tip. So there's no like scheduling disadvantages here besides the back-to-back for Orlando. No game, no. The Grizzlies aren't coming off a back-to-back. The Suns aren't coming off a back-to-back. Yeah, so I'm gonna say the Magic go 2-1.
They've got a lot of travel though this week. They're in Dallas Wednesday. They're in Indiana on Friday. Then it's a back-to-back, a Florida back-to-back, Orlando on Sunday, and then Monday they're in Miami. So I don't know. It was close-ish last time that we played Phoenix with all of those guys. Devin Booker, Bradley Beal, KD, all of those guys getting going. They've won 5 in a row, and they're 7-3 in their last 10. Mm-hmm. Seems like they're starting to figure some things out. But the last couple of games, they've got a Durant 40 ball tonight, and Friday Booker dropped 52 on the Pelicans. So maybe we get lucky. Those guys sort of cool off.
We need
it just
Cleveland
feels like
cool
Magic got
essentially. Cleveland's ripped off 7 straight. They're effectively the hottest team in basketball. And then you play the second hottest team in basketball next Sunday.
They're due to cool off. That's how I feel. And then Memphis, obviously, no John Morant, and their season's really, just falling apart. They're 5-5 in their last 10, losers of 2 in a row. Taking a look at their schedule this week: Monday at Toronto, Wednesday at Miami, then home on Friday against the Magic. Yeah. And blown out last 2 games against Minnesota and Chicago.
Here's one other thing I'll add, Jonathan. If the Magic do in fact go 3-0, was that your prediction?
Yeah, that's my heart, but yeah.
Okay, yeah, of course. If the Magic go 3-0 this week, that would mean that they had won 4 in a row. And that means on Sunday's episode, after we record after the Suns game, I
you
will
said
promise,
5 in a row.
I'm getting
you said
excited.
5 in a row for the shirt.
It's 5 in a row.
If you want to bring your nipples out, just say that, bro. Don't try to blame the win streak.
I don't know. We'll have to see how I feel. Game time decision on Sunday after we win that game against Phoenix. The shirt could be off just because I was in the depths of despair.
That's
wild. And then now we're back.
You're going to premature no shirtulation there.
Yeah, because I just don't know that I'm going to get the chance the next time because the Mavs game's off a back-to-back. I just don't want to risk it. It would be awesome. How awesome would it be, though? If
we got a stretch in the end of February. That could be no shirts at Detroit, at Atlanta, home for Brooklyn, home for Utah, home for Detroit, at Charlotte, at Washington. Like,
I'll save it for a 5. I'll save it for a 5+ win streak. What I will also say there, though, is that through January, if you win out in January, because let's say you beat the Suns, then you play the Mavs on a back-to-back. You beat the Mavs, then you play the Spurs the end of the month, last day of the month. The Magic could see themselves on a 6-game win streak at that point. That Mavs game's the biggest question mark, obviously. Going off that back-to-back could be rough. But maybe I save it for Wednesday's episode against the Spurs, January 31st. Maybe that's when.
Let's talk about this a little bit. So our last episode came after that Atlanta loss, and this is a thick episode. Kevin is not happy with us at the moment. This is the last thing, I promise, and then we'll go ahead and wrap up. After the Atlanta game, we looked at the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 games of January, and we said you have to win. You have to go 4-3 to be above 500. So now that we've got Franz back, we've already got the Miami win under our belt. Cleveland, Memphis, Phoenix, Dallas, San Antonio. I feel like you have to win at Memphis and at San Antonio. Like, those have to be wins. So that gives us 3. And then you just have to find a way to beat either Cleveland, Memphis, Phoenix, or Dallas. I'm sorry, Cleveland, Phoenix, or Dallas. Not what you talked about, Memphis. Cleveland, Phoenix, Dallas. You have to find a way to win one of those games.
Just take care of that game against Cleveland tonight as you guys are listening to this.
If the Magic are able, to get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If the Magic are able to get 3 out of the next 5, they'll be sitting at 26-22 to end January. 4 games over 500. And then again, like the schedule lightens up and you can go on a run.
Yep. Stay healthy, go on a run, go Magic. Get the wins, baby.
Get the wins. All right, folks, that is going to do it for this one. For Luke Sylvia, this has been Jonathan Osborne. You all have been listening to The Sixth Man Show, and we will catch you guys next time. See ya.
Thanks for listening to The Sixth Man Show. Be sure to subscribe on iTunes and Spotify to get new episodes downloaded directly to your phone. If you enjoyed the show, please take a minute to give us a 5-star rating and a review. It helps out the show a lot. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Sixth Man Show. We'll catch you guys next time. Go Magic!